Right, so firstly, let's get started because I'm sure that everybody wants to ask questions as well. Firstly, thank you, Nadia, for coming and talking to us. I'm going to hog the questions initially, if that's okay.
Very unlike you, Christine.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you. Right, and my first question, my first few questions actually are going to be about the favourite. Partly because I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Obviously, it goes without saying that I was there cheering you on when you won.
Oh, thank you.
Honestly, you walked out. I knew it was going to win. Right. So, what I want to know is a couple of questions. I want to know is just bearing in mind that a lot of people that are kind of listening in today kind of want to obviously become, makeup designers eventually, but just hoping to work in the industry. Right. First question is, how long did it take to film The Favourite?
I think it was about 11 weeks. And we had about half of that, or just over half of that, where we were based in one place in our main location. And then the rest of the shooting was we went out for 2 days to different locations and exterior scenes, and then back to Hatfield House, which was our main place.
Oh, you just answered one of my later questions.
Oh, sorry.
Was a lot of it, so was it based in a studio?
No, we were all in Hatfield House. Everything was Hatfield House. We never went to studio at all. It was all in stately homes. Yeah, wow. Hatfield House, and then the downstairs, all the kind of servants' quarters, and where Emma Stone's character was most of the time. That was all Hampton Court Palace.
Yeah, do you know what? You know that sort of thing when you recognise places, but you're not quite sure. And I kept thinking, is it Hatfield House? And then I was just like, no. And then the downstairs in the kitchen, I thought, I really know that great big fireplace. I know it so well.
Yeah.
So I remember hiding in it so many times, Anyway, right. So that's good. So it's Hatfield House. You was based out there. Very nice. I love Hatfield House. How much prep did you actually have on the film before you started?
Well, I think I had about 6 or 7 weeks, which, as you know, is never enough for a period job. And it all kind of came around a bit quick as well, because I met for the job about 18 months before we actually shot it, and heard that I'd got the job, but that no official deal was done because it kept moving and pushing. And then Olivia was signed up to do Broadchurch, and that ran from March until October. And Yorgos was never going to film with anyone else as Queen Anne. It was always her. He said it's her or nobody. So it all just kind of went on hold, and I didn't know if it was ever going to happen, and then kind of was turning other stuff down and waiting. And I just kept thinking, if it happens and I've on something else, I'll never get over that. I was just like, I've got to do this job. And then I suddenly got a phone call about 18 months later, and they were like, you've got the job, it's yours. Deal's coming through, can you go and meet Yorgos and Sandy Powell, the costume designer, now? It was 6 o'clock at night. And went and met them, and kind of never felt more out my depth. I was just like, what am I doing? And I hadn't read a script for so long that I just kind of couldn't even remember half of it anyway. And then the prep seemed to start, it snowballed really quickly then. It was like, okay, you're prepping kind of next week, let's get going. Sort of, it was really quick then. And then probably about 6 or 7 weeks, I think, prep.
I mean, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because when you what I always try to explain to students is that when you're going for an interview for a job, every designer will go and interpret that script differently. And I kind of think that's where and it's always also important to kind of sort of say that even when you're being told you've got the job, or you think you've got the job, but you're not being paid to do the job yet, so you're not being paid to prep. So 9 times out of 10, I mean, it's like when people say, oh, well, it's fine, you'd never work for nothing now. I'm just like, oh, you knew how many weeks I put into a film, go on the payroll, just partly because we all feel that we're kind of, what is it, that when you think that you're not going to get the job.
Superstitious?
What was that?
Is it superstitious?
No, I think it's when you kind of sort of think, oh my God, how comes I'm doing this job? When there's so many brilliant people out there. Like sometimes I watch other films that are designed, and I'm just like, how on earth did they come up with those designs? When you get into the job, it's a real collaboration between us and the costume designer and the production designer and the director and the actors. And it's kind of trying to tell people that it is, when we're prepping, we actually, by the time we're on paid prep, we've done a lot of prep anyway. I think that's more what I'm kind of trying to get. It's imposter syndrome.
Yeah, well, that was the thing with oh, I mean, that's me every day, always. Like,
I know.
Really? But that was the thing with prep.
My team, I'm just like, hey guys, we fooled it, we've done it.
I know. I mean, still, honestly, talk about like BAFTAs and stuff. I'm like, really? I couldn't even believe, like, all those people that were in that category of people that I just like wanted to work with for so long and thought, you know, trying to catch their attention on set, and then suddenly it's like, what? Are you sure you've got this right? But yeah, I think we're all like that. The more I speak to people, the more everybody's the same. So
we absolutely all suffer for it. Okay, right.
Yeah.
Otherwise we're never going to have time for everybody else. Right, the overall budget of the film. Are you okay to talk about that? What was your
yeah. I think it's out there. The thing with The Favourite was it always seemed a lot shinier than it was. You know, you get cast of that caliber in it, and it seems like it's a big budget period film, and it kind of wasn't. It was just over $15 $1 million.
That's about 12 million sterling, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's like, you take the cast out of that, which I know they didn't get paid handsomely for it, but what's below the line then for us wasn't a lot at all. And so we kept, you know, when you're trying to beg, borrow and steal for everything for it, but you mentioned the cast, people are like, oh, this is a big film, and it actually wasn't, because the contribution financially from Fox was, I think, quite small. That's why it was still kind of classed as an independent film, really, because Element Pictures made it, and it was essentially them. So yeah, it wasn't big budget really.
But it's amazing, isn't it? Because I mean, every single penny is up on the screen, isn't it? I mean, you just see everywhere. I mean,
yeah,
it looks like it was a really big budget film. And what was your makeup budget?
So I had £10,000 for makeups and consumables, and then I had 40,000 for wigs, which, to anyone listening, who that sounds a lot of money, but you start thinking about the fact that every single person in front of that camera had a wig on. Yeah. And once we had 3/4 wigs made for the leading ladies, and I think they probably had 2 or 3 a piece because of changes and the length of the shoot. You take that out, and what's left for crowd is not a lot at all, and the rental for those big wigs is actually kind of double what a normal rental would be for a normal wig. So when I got it, I just was like, I mean, how are we going to do this? It just, I went to all the wig houses and tried to just see how many of these wigs were actually out there, and Ray Marsden's gave me boxes and boxes of stuff. And it was all like,
oh, they're brilliant. Yeah.
It's just some stuff I don't think had been touched for about 20 years, and they were like, would this be any good? And it was like, looked like some old kind of rat in a box. And I think there's a picture somewhere of me and Anna Morena, who works with me all the time. She was our main wig dresser on it. Just a picture of me and her laying in a room, because we didn't have a makeup bus to prep from, just covered in hair, laying on it, going, what are we going to do? Like, so yeah, there was a lot of kind of figuring out the best way to, you know, we were pinching, because essentially those wigs are kind of, you know, the headpiece and then ladders that come off 2 and then 1 at the back. So we were like, if we nicked a ladder off this and moved it onto that and do this, and so there was lots of that going on. And then we looked at how we could make them ourselves, and the beauty of it was, because they're meant to look like a wig, we bought some cheap, up to Pax, bought some cheap wigs, set the top bit, and then made our own ladders out of hair wefts. Yeah. And we made probably about 10 or 15 wigs, which saved us, because otherwise. And then the rest of the wigs, I was living in a flat in Muswell Hill at the time, quite a small flat as well, and I came back with this box of smelly old wigs. Said to my boyfriend, sorry, I'm washing them in the bath, hanging them up in the shower, like, it just, because we had no facilities really, because we didn't have a makeup bus till the last week of prep. So it really was like getting that budget and then having to create from that was, yeah, you had to find a lot of shortcuts really.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is incredible. I mean, it will sound a lot to a lot of people, but when you say to me 50,000, absolutely tight as you like.
Oh yeah.
And the only thing you can do is you just got to rely on getting to packs and just being able to kind of make stuff. And also relying on goodwill. You know, it's like, you know, you build up, but in this industry, I find that as a designer, you'll build up goodwill with your suppliers like Ray Marsden's,
Yeah.
you know, and Sarah Weatherburn and everybody, you know, and it's that goodwill that, you know, and like me, you know, you go from big budget to small budget productions, and part of the thrill, I think, of being a designer is being able to bring everything in to a budget like that, you know, and kind of being able to work within those confines, because I mean the visual of it is incredible. It really is. And I think the fact that you made a lot of them, you know, and when you go into your deeper background, it's like a lot of us have to do that. You know, we all have to know how to make stuff and how and where we spend our money. And your money's got to be spent on your principles at the front. And like for anybody that's listening out there, if you're looking at having wigs made for actors, you're talking between £2,000 and £5,000, £6,000, £7,000 per actor. And then you've got to look if any of them are having stunts. I mean, there was a couple of stunts, obviously you had a couple of stunts on your show, didn't you? You know, like, I mean, Rachel being dragged by the horse and everything. And you kind of, that's where you start talking to people and sort of saying, can you put a hat on them at this point?
I know, but like, you say about goodwill, and it is absolutely that. Like, if those wig houses hadn't, all of them, you know, particularly Ray's, all of them doing me deals saying, you know what, well, it would be half the amount if you keep it for the whole job. And we'd have never have done it if it hadn't have been the goodwill of those people, or people going, oh, we haven't used that stuff for ages, take it, you know, don't worry about that. Or we just would never have got there. I know. It was well done anyway. I do think there's an element though of like, we must be glutton for punishment, but when you do it that way, there's such a sense of achievement in it. Because if you just had all the money in the world, it's like, well, you could just go anywhere and get, you dress those, you do that. Yeah. But actually having to come up with those things, when you actually see it on screen, go, oh wow, we did that from hard work. But this is why I always love watching films that have been done on a shoestring, you know, and I love it when, you know, I remember from Dallas Buyers Club, you know, sort of so much of it was done out of the paint palette, and you're just like, okay, fair play. I mean, it's fine. You know, like when I'm doing sort of like, if I'm doing a Mike Leigh film, there's no money at all. And you have to really be resourceful. But it's kind of why we all do it, I think. Yeah. I mean, it's always wonderful to go and do a big Disney film and kind of, get backed by Mac and God knows what else. But the bottom line is it's really nice to be able to make your own mud and blood and, you know, get stuck in as well. And when you make your own sort of falls, you know, it's like when you have to make a really long back piece and you know that the longest hair you can get is like 27 inches and you've got to make it hit the ground. It's just like the only thing you can do is make something. Yeah. You know? So you've got to be resourceful like that. Right. So, was you aware of the visual requirements at the start with your, when you were talking to your director, Jorge, for filming, and did you do a lot of testing? Obviously Sandy's very visual as well. I mean, she's pretty incredible. Oh yeah. No, do you know what? I don't think I actually knew what we were making until I went to see it. When I actually saw it, I went, oh right, that's what it was. Because like all the way through it, he was going, we're making a comedy, and I was like, oh wait. It's like, all right. But no, I don't think anybody does. I can't really tell you now, and I've tried to figure it out so much, like how he works. But I think what it is that there's a tremendous amount of trust put in you, and you get the script, and you get a few references, a few films that he's interested in or things that he's looking at, and then it's kind of left for you to just go and bring him your ideas, and they could range from everything, and then he chooses things from each of us, from Sandy, from me, from Fiona, the production designer, from Robbie, cinematographer, and then makes his film from that. So you don't actually know I never knew there was going to be fisheye lenses until I knew there was going to be lots of natural light and candle light, because there was no sparks on the unit list. So I was like, where are they? and then saw these candles and had a mad panic because there was so much hairspray on all the wigs. So I was like, oh my God, like, keep the candles away from the wigs. Moving your actors away. A whole team just moving the wigs out of the way.
And what about the camera angles? Did the actors know that the camera angles were going to be in the most unflattering position they could ever be in? I mean, it was obviously a deliberate choice, wasn't it?
I don't think anyone knew from the actors to what was going on most of the time. I mean, the rehearsal process, that he had them like running around pretending they were chickens and stuff like that for 3 weeks. And Olivia said to him, when we actually get going, are we just doing it normally? Like, am I going to say my lines normally? And just, he was like, yes. We were like, what's going on? So all of it, I don't think any of us knew. Every day was like, all right, okay, that's happening. And, you know, you sort of, you don't, yeah, I don't know. It's just all, but I do believe that there was some sort of strange kind of alchemy where it just came together. You know, like, he wasn't around much for prep because he was editing his other film in America, so we didn't see him much. But you got Sandy doing costumes and Fiona doing production design, and I just think there was times that it was so sparky from one to the other. Like, I'd see something they were doing and go, oh, maybe I could do this, and you know, it just came together. I think it was just one of them magical moments where it just did it. And you know.
I think it just proves it's always a collaboration, isn't it? I mean, you have to kind of work alongside your costume designer and designer big time. And it's also a good point to make to people that directors are very unique to themselves. They're their own kind of form of designer. They, you know, quite often every director that you work with has got a different way. I mean, directors work famously on their own, you know, unless you're talking about the Coen brothers, but they do work on their own, and they kind of all come into it with their own sense of madness, really, which makes them all unique. And part of our job is kind of sort of interpreting, and like Nadia was sort of saying, I mean, a few of the directors that I've worked with over the years, I've sometimes found the best thing to do is you show them options. You know, it's the golden rule of, you know, give them a few options and they'll cherry pick bits that they like from each. You know, and it's learning how to work along with them and keep your actor happy and keep everybody, you know, keep us happy and everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that was it. That was my last question, because you actually answered my question on the stately homes, saying it was Hatfield House. That was my last.
Hatfield.
And talking of mad projects and mad directors, Devs.
Oh.
Okay, right. Me and my sons were absolutely addicted. We literally just watched it back to back. But for the first couple of episodes, we were just like, "What?" I'm not going to swear. What on earth is going on? I mean, we did. Years ago, I did Sunshine with Danny Boyle, and you know, that was an Alice Garland thing.
Yeah.
But Alice Garland is up there, isn't he?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
in a wonderful way. He's very unique.
Yeah, that's just a mind that I can't even begin. My mum phoned me the other night and she said, right, I think I might have lost the thread a little bit with Devs. I don't know. And she asked me questions and I was like, I did it and I can't answer that question. There was just stuff that's beyond my kind of mental capacity to explain. I just know that it's really cool, but I don't know. It's like,
that's another good golden rule to everybody that's listening, is sometimes you'll read a script and you'll just go, what on earth is going on?
Yeah.
And it does kind of come together, because by the time that you're sitting around a table with all of the creative people and your director and you know, whoever's written it, it does start, the images start to appear. Pete, I'm going to hand it over to you to sort of like pull in some questions, otherwise I'm going to do the whole of this.
No. There's lots of do start writing all your questions, and lots of questions coming in. One of the questions was sort of be talking on with regards to director stuff. Are you allowed, particularly the way you're saying, Nadia? I mean, were you at any point, or are you allowed to kind of sort of say no to the director, or we can't do that? You know.
I think you can guide about something if it's on a practical level, that like that's not going to work because in the next scene such and such happens, and that, you know, so you can guide them. It depends how visually strong. Some directors are just like, let you get on with it, leave you to it. Some will say, I don't know about hair and makeup, that's your thing, you know, and unless they really don't like it, they just kind of let you get on with it. Others are much more. Yorgos for the favourite was much, you know, down to the detail, everything, would notice absolutely everything. So it really depends on the director. I mean, obviously the more jobs you do, the more confident you become, and the more there's early jobs that I wish I'd have said, oh, I don't think that wig's right, but you kind of don't want to interrupt things. Now I would say, if I don't, you know, if I really felt strongly about something.
From Kerry Louise, I was wondering what reference, resource or books Nadia sourced when designing hair and makeup for film. Is there a particular books or stuff, or is it just
that depends totally on the project. I've got masses of books. I've actually been posting one a day on Instagram, if it's of any use to anybody, like just kind of my favourite reference books. So I've got loads of those. I watch lots and lots of films that might be around the subject or around the time, or just what I might think might be of interest. Like with the favourite, visited museums, went to galleries, went to visit some of the stately homes that Lady Sarah and Marlborough lived in. Just depends really, but I try and, you know, I love that bit, the reference bit and the research bit. I think that's amazing. And it's, the more you throw yourself into that, sometimes the tiniest detail will come from somewhere crazy that you think, oh, I like the band of black across the eyes for the badger makeup. That's actually because I love Blade Runner. I love that Blade Runner makeup. I don't know if I saw it or I was like, oh, it's my little, you know, and you don't think you're going to get a homage to Blade Runner in an 18th century film, but I managed to get it in there.
I suppose it's also that balance of, like I say, it's a period piece, but then you come to the table with the director and stuff with a period background, but it's how that director wants to interpret your research and the period, you know, like how strong they want it to be exact or loose, you know.
Yeah, well, the favourite was a very particular film in that way, because it was never going to be standard period because it's Yorgos. It just was never going to be that. And when I first showed him all my research, I'd done so much of it, and I said, you know, in 1705 they did this, and he said, how do you know? And I was like, wow, it was I've read it in this book. And he was like, but we weren't there, there's no photos. And I'm like, well, yeah, you're right, I guess. And he's like, so, you know, and he did the same with Sandy. I know there were certain things where she was like, they wouldn't have had buttons on that. And he went, well, let's put buttons on because we don't know. And, you know, so, but the tricky thing with that film was how far do you push it and make it stylized without looking like you got the period wrong? You don't, you know, it's how far do you go with it? So yeah, that was a particular one.
Yeah, oh, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, you muted me. Unbelievable.
Nadia said mute her, otherwise.
I said mute her, she'll just keep...
I froze a bit and I had to change my position. But you know, it's really interesting when you're saying that, because I'm kind of like here nodding in my muted position. And one of the, I always think one of the most amazing things about being a designer, and I will always say this to people, is exactly what you said, is the ability to know what your team's capable. And it's like, whatever meetings we go in for, however bonkers the script is, you know, we'll just be making notes. I'll be making notes for my prosthetic designer, or you know, the wig people, or anything. And I'm just like, you know, everything's possible as long as you know that your team, that you can bring in the team to do it. Basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I just did Cruella, and it was lots and lots of big fashion makeups, and it's all based around fashion. And I haven't really ever been in that world, you know. I've never, and I'm not. That's something I like to keep up to date with, those techniques and products and that kind of thing. And brought in Guy Common, actually, I think Shane did. I was like, this is amazing, and learned so much, and you know, could not have done without him on that job. And it's brilliant to bring in someone that is kind of at junior level and is teaching me all this stuff. That's amazing.
I know, well, Guy's amazing. I mean, Guy, and funnily enough, Guy came to us via Christine Blundell, who was one of our sort of graduates from years back, who does mainly fashion now. But I did exactly the same on Aladdin. When we was doing the parade, we brought in Gina because she does fashion shows.
Yeah.
Gina with Guy to kind of just sort of like put together, you know, I know what I want, you know, I wanted people with gold dripping off of them, and, you know, all of these like sort of elaborate makeups. And you just bring in a team to do it, you know.
But also they're so quick, because some of the looks for her, she's got a different look every time you see her, and I knew how to get there, but it would have taken me an hour, whereas guys were like, you need 2 products here, 2 products, this, that, and I was like, oh wow, okay, great. I'd never have known that. I'd have had a table of products out in front of me and still there an hour later trying to perfect it. It was like, so yeah, it's good to, you know, but I'm much more confident at kind of now going, oh, I don't have to do that. Who's good at that? Let's get them in and get them to help. Because it's a team effort, isn't it, to get it on screen?
Totally.
So.
Similar to the Twin, how do you, from Savin, how do you crew up your team for the main unit or crowd room?
Lots of my team have been with me for a long time, so I try and use them as much as possible, because I know their skills, and I, you know, and I know what they're good, and also, you know, spend a lot of time with your team, so it's nice to know that you know people on there. But recommendations from people, and then, you know, I look what the job needs. If it's heavy on prosthetics, then I'd start to kind of ring around or look around and see who's doing what, and I try and follow lots of people on social media and see what they're up to. So it just really depends on what the job needs. And then crowd, there tends to be sort of a few people that run crowd, like that are the kind of known ones. I mean, Cruella, I got Julia Vernon, and I was just blown away by how amazing her and her team are. So, and then she would crew up the crowd dailies mainly.
I think we've got Charmaine's listening in, so I'm sure Charmaine can run a really good crowd.
Oh, well, Charmaine came out as well. We were very, very privileged, because I think they had a hiatus on the Nevers, and we got all the brilliant crowd people on that. I was like, this is like a double whammy. I got them all. It was amazing.
Nadia, I think I was sharing people with you, sending people your way a lot, but Charmaine's brilliant.
Yeah,
there. She's very well respected in the industry, as is
absolutely, yeah.
And we couldn't do without you guys.
Let's not overpraise Charmaine. From Melanie, any advice to anyone thinking about training or about to train?
Go to Chrissy Blundell's makeup.
I'll pay you.
No, I think the beauty with those schools is, particularly schools like Chris's, is that, you know, you are being trained by people that work in the industry and they know exactly how it works. And also, you know, people that then go on to do a job and go, oh, I remember that person, they were amazing, let's kind of get them out. And also you get experience to go out on sets. So yeah, I
as well, don't we? I think what you were saying before, like as designers, we kind of all know each other. Do you know, and we are inclined to kind of sort of like know if somebody's, you know, like I know, obviously I've known the guys been over working with you, and we kind of seem to know each other's sort of like teams, and you know.
Yeah, because when you first start out, I think it seems massive. I remember thinking the industry and that, you know, getting into makeup in the industry seemed huge, but actually when you actually get in it, like you say, it's quite, we all sort of know each other, or you, even people that you haven't met, you know of them, or you know. And I would look at, if someone's been working on some, like your team, you look for on lots of jobs, you'd think, oh, they're obviously kind of good at their job if you're hiring them and they're in your crowd. And so yeah, we definitely, we all talk and get recommendations.
I think that's kind of the first part is all, well, I'll say easy, but you know, going to an academy, whichever one is it. I think, but what you've shown, Nadia, is that determination part afterwards, because you could be really, you can come out of an academy and be really skillful, really thing, but if you don't get out there, and I think I can say, you know, you were hustling, you had to move away from home, you know, hundreds of miles to move down to London, not knowing what's going to happen or how, but it's almost like you made it work. You had to work.
Oh yeah, I mean, when I got that job at the National, I did that in the day, and then my job at the night was dressing the ballerinas at the Royal Opera House as well, at the ballet. I remember like running over the bridge to get to my second job to earn enough money to keep myself in London. And I remember being on night buses at 4 a.m, going for a work experience opportunity on a Lisa Westcott film, when people were getting on the night bus from a night out, like drunk, and I've got my kit and heading, so, you know, the determination to kind of every single opportunity that I got, I went for. I missed out on so much stuff in my own life, you know, because I was like, you know, friends' birthday parties, and I was like, can't come because I've got the opportunity to go and work with this designer. Or I definitely, I would say I made a lot of it happen. I didn't finish and think, oh, it's just going to come to me and I'm going to get offered a job on some big film. It was like, definitely hustled. You know, I kind of made sure I was, all my holiday time as well from the National, I used it to get work experience. So I did a week at the wig store, and that's where I met Lisa Westcott. And then from that, went and met all the people in her crowd room were all amazing designers in their own right. So I'm in a pool of all these people going, oh, can I give you my name and number? And, you know, I just, yeah, hustled.
Yeah, no, it is. It's. I mean, as Lisa said, as long as you don't give up, you'll make it. And we always say to, you know, people come to join or thinking of joining, it's, you know, you just got to work hard and be determined, and you know, it will happen. You know, it's not rocket science. There's no secret formula. It's those boring things of working hard, networking, being there. You know, being out there to meet and greet and just, yeah, pushing yourself.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I genuinely think if you want it enough and you work hard enough, it will happen. And I really believe that I'm kind of living proof of that, because I didn't have any ins to the industry. I didn't know anyone. I knew nobody when I moved to London. I didn't know anybody that works in makeup or hair. It was never something that I kind of thought that I was going to go into, but I've, you know, just kept working at it, and you will get loads of knockbacks, and there's times that you think, oh, it's not going to happen, or you just got to keep at it. You just got to keep working. And I kind of, even now, like I said, in lockdown, I'm watching people's tutorials, reading reference books, looking at stuff. I kind of keep into it all the time.
Laura asking Chrissy a similar same question about how do you crew up your main unit and crowd room and stuff.
Have you muted me again?
No, you can. No. Yeah, I can.
How do I crew? Well, I mean, the same as Nadia. I mean, I think a lot of people know that I've had the same crew for many years. I mean, we're talking about. I mean, Lisa's been with me for 20 odd years now. I mean, most of my crew I've been with for longer than most people who've been married, I think. But I mean, you know, outside of my sort of like core team, I think on the main bus, if I'm looking at obviously trainees to bring in, I've sort of shifted my thing lately, obviously because of the school, and I tend to let my team interview. You know, we'll kind of work out who they want to interview, and my team will interview the trainee for the main bus. With Charmaine, who runs my crowd rooms, she basically crews up. She's got her core team that work with her, and then I'll kind of give her my sort of list of you know, ideal sort of people that I kind of want to be seeing in there. We've got our list of sort of, you know, obviously graduates that have got to come in for work experience, that we have to work those through. And likewise, she'll have on most of the jobs, like the Nevers, and most of them are that kind of size now, unless I go off and do something with Mike Lee, which obviously is back to pennies. But most of the time, she'll have at least 2 permanent trainees with her. And again, she, you know, we'll kind of sort of shortlist them, and she'll do the interviewing of them, really, because they've got to work with Charmaine. And I'm very respectful of the fact that, you know, she runs the crowd room, you know, and much as, you know, I kind of just sort of, I basically want to talk to as few people as possible when I'm kind of looking at the design of things. If I'm looking at obviously I'm sorting out the design for my principals, and then I'll pass them on to whoever's doing them on the main bus. And likewise, when I'm sitting down with my team and talking about what sort of looks that I want, say in Nevers, for example, how I want the people to look in the market square or whatever, I'll sort of talk to Charmaine solely really about what I want, and it will filter down from her. So she's kind of responsible for doing all of the crowd stuff, and I sort of like stick really with my main team.
Here's an interesting one from Claire. what do you do, Nadia and Chrissy, to keep your creativity flowing?
Oh, well, I think every project brings its own thing. It's a brand new start every job, and I've been really lucky to do such different projects. So and different periods, and I try as much as I can to kind of look at the next thing being completely different, you know, to go from doing Secret Garden, which is a period piece, to going to doing Devs, which is, you know, about technology in San Francisco. It's two completely different things, and so there's new things to learn every time. So I think it kind of it brings its own creativity, and I have to research things that I don't know about. So but as I was saying, I constantly watch new artists on social media, or kind of new films, and look at what new designers or you know, other designers are doing, and that kind of keeps me creative, I guess.
A question from Leslie. Was the favourite film your most challenging job to date, Nadia?
Yes. Cruella was pretty hard. Cruella was tough. It was like just a different scale, huge, you know, time restraints, and yeah, she's I can't tell you much about the look at the moment, but she's different every single time you see her. So it's a completely different look. So that was really tough. But I think the favourite, because of the way that Yorgos works, and the budget was really tough, and also it was kind of a step up for me. I hadn't done anything like that before, and working with someone like Sandy Powell, you just realise how much you've got to up your game. You know, you have to. So yeah, I think the favourite probably was. There's been some. I'm a glutton for punishment, so I do love doing independent films, like, you know, like Chris, you kind of swap between the different budgets, and I actually quite like doing that, because I think it takes you, like we were saying earlier, it takes you back to basics, and you have to learn how to do something from your kit again, or oh, that wig that we used on a film before, can we change that into something else? I actually quite like that. So yeah, I quite like the challenge.
It's interesting because when we sort of first started the academy, and not coming from a makeup background, I kept thinking, you know, big blockbuster movies, you know, James Bond, all these big, you know, and then sort of Chrissy would say, oh, I've got a new Mike Leigh film, you know, sort of low budget, smaller, and I couldn't, from not about that background, couldn't understand. I couldn't see, well, why is this a small budget? It's got to be big budget. And then you realise, as you said, it's the small budget films that's the challenging ones, where there's no budget, there's no money, but you've got to make it look $1 million, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, I've always, from the beginning, the way I choose a project is script and director. That's the only thing I can really go on, because you don't really know what it's going to turn out like. So sometimes those scripts are low budget, and that's just the way it is, and you just can't not do it because it's great. So, you know.
Terry's asking, which director would you like to work with, Nadia?
I would like to work with Guillermo del Toro. God, I'd love to. Yes, I love his stuff.
Did he do Vicky Cristina Barcelona? He works with Penelope.
He did Shape of Water and Pan's Labyrinth. And
yeah, Pan's Labyrinth. Yeah.
Yeah, I just love the kind of visual style of that. What else would I like to work with? I've been asked this a few times, and then afterwards I've gone, oh, why didn't I say such and such? Because I always, but he's always up there. I would love to work with him. Yeah.
We've got a quick fire questions that we always ask, as it were. What was your first film that you saw at the cinema?
I actually think it was Ghostbusters. I think my sister took me and I leapt out of the seat of that with the scary bit in the library at the moment, and I wanted to leave and upset everything for her and her boyfriend. So, yeah, it was that, Ghostbusters.
Just 3 of you.
Oh, look, I'm gonna look, because I answered mine the other day. There it is.
Do you know what? I've got that Jaws poster. It's my favourite film, Jaws.
Jaws, first thing I saw.
Yeah, I love it. It's my favourite.
What inspired you to become a makeup artist? Was it a film? Was it Ghostbusters that you ran out of? Music video or something else?
I do remember watching the Thriller video for the first time and being just kind of blown away by that. I do definitely remember that, but I honestly don't think that I had a plan to be a makeup artist. I just think that I loved film and love film, and I'm really into art and was kind of thought I would do something artistic, and then it just so happened that the two kind of merged together, and I realised that could be a career. But I didn't sort of set out. I've never been one that's been looking all around the kind of makeup counters in the department stores. Never been what it was about. So
it's funny, so many people, when they come to the academy, and it's like, I didn't realise that being a makeup artist was a career, you know.
Yeah.
And I still think, like, these are career advisors. I think it's probably very similar today still, of like, you know, it should be there, like with many other sort of opportunities. It's bizarre, strange why not. What was your first makeup job, and what did you do?
My first makeup job. I think my first TV job was a series that used to be on called Trial and Retribution, like those kind of long-running sort of detective TV series, ITV dramas. I think that was my first trainee job. That, or I was trainee just for the additional photography on Notes on a Scandal, a film, a Judi Dench and Cate Blanchett film. That was really, really early on, because I remember being completely wide-eyed and being like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm on this film with these amazing people. And so, yeah, that was pretty early. That was 2 trainee jobs.
What are the 3 essential products in your kit?
Oh, it depends what day you ask me, really, because I think it changes. I do use Aveda Confixer, which is a liquid gel. I've had that forever in my kit, and I always use it. And it always, every job, it seems like it's a surprise when we go, what could we use? Oh, Confixer. And we might as well have just gone there first, because it's always the thing we use. I like the my Le Maquillage palette, the big kind of the grand palette. I use that a lot.
I love that one. It almost looks like a box of chocolates for me.
I know. I think that might be what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be what it is. Gosh, I don't know what else.
We'll be happy with them 2 big ones. That's fine.
Yeah.
I
can't remember my kit anymore. I can't remember what I actually did, other than decorate my house or whatever I'm doing in lockdown.
I've got paint all over. That's why I put a long sleeve shirt and I've got cartons everywhere. James is asking, have you ever turned anything down and regretted it afterwards?
Yeah, I don't know if I can say what it is, but I basically had to choose between 2 jobs, and it was horrendous. And the job that I chose, it was between Tolkien and something else, and I don't regret doing Tolkien at all. I loved it. I had a brilliant time. But there was another job at the time, and I still kind of gutted that I couldn't do it and I couldn't make it work. But that can happen a lot, actually. I'm sure, Chris, that's happened a million times to you, that like, yeah. Oh, you just, and sometimes it is because you're in the most awful but amazing position to be in, and it's like, oh, poor you, like, choose between this film or that film, you know. But it is really difficult because you just don't know which way to go, and loyalty comes into it a lot if it's a director that you work with a lot, and so it's difficult. Yeah, there's been a couple that I've had to choose between that was difficult, but yeah, I always kind of make peace with it, because whatever you chose for a reason. So
I think that's also you know, even with makeup artists, you know, like where you're asked to go and do a week or so there, and then some, you know, another film asks you, and you've got to either, as you say, loyalty, or you've got to make a decision, and you've got to go with it, just carry on, I suppose.
Yeah.
And my wife here is telling me we've got 2 more minutes to go.
Your technical advisor.
yeah.
Believe me, she is. She's like the flipping cement that.
Chrissy, we've unmuted you. We can hear you.
2 minutes is now 1 minute. Go on.
But I wanted to be sending an email. The last question is: will you come to the Makeup Academy for afternoon tea one day when we reopen?
Oh, I would love to. Yes, that's a definite yes.
See, I actually sent that message in.
I would love to. Yeah,
we can catch up on our chats earlier.
Yeah, it would be really nice.
On that note, I mean, if, like, you know, to come in and teach would be obviously even better than afternoon tea. What would be your, say, you know, your favourite genre to teach, as it were?
I do like a bit of special effects. Not necessarily kind of, if it was a big prosthetic, I'd get someone in, but I do like a kind of a beaten up.
Would casualty suffice?
Bit of casualty, I'd like, yeah, that'd be good.
Oh, careful what you're saying here, Nadia. I can feel him reeling you.
No. Yeah, and there's a lot of
now. Nadia, thank you so much for giving up your Saturday.
You're so welcome.
Oh, it's really lovely to talk to you.
Yeah, really lovely to talk to you. Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to actually properly meeting you.
I know.
We very barely meet. I'm sure that we have sort of walked past each other a lot in the past, but.
Well, I came out as a crowd at training, I think, on Sherlock, and I remember just, you know, that thing when people just stare at the designer. I remember just being like, there she is. Like, yeah.
Oh, my wonderful collaboration with Guy Ritchie. There you go. There's a mad one to work with, but he's lovely.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you. I hope everyone enjoyed it who was listening in, and yes, thank you very much. Now next chat on the sofa is on Thursday. So anyone that likes Peaky Blinders, come on in, because we've got Loz coming in to have a chat.
Brilliant.
So so tune into that. Lots of love, everyone. And Nadia, one more time, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for asking. Keep
Bye.
safe.
Thank you. Bye.